RFK endorses Donald Trump, and the Democrats are in full panic. Good morning, Kuhner country. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, we talked about it last week. We knew it was coming, but the official announcement came Friday afternoon, and man, it hit like an absolute political nuclear bomb. It sent shockwaves across the political landscape, and for obvious reason. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of Robert Kennedy, the nephew of John F. Kennedy, two of the most prominent liberal Democrat icons in the entire Democratic Party, announced in a speech that not only was he suspending his presidential campaign, but above all, that he was now endorsing Donald Trump, that he will now campaign for Donald Trump, and that in fact they are forming, his words, not mine, a quote-unquote unity party and a unity government, in which RFK Jr. and Trump are now calling upon not just all MAGA supporters, not just all Republicans, but all disillusioned, disaffected Democrats, independents, wherever you are on the political spectrum. Our country is now hanging by a thread. Our economy and borders are being destroyed. A deep state is now establishing a stranglehold over our fundamental civil liberties. And if we do not beat back this Democrat Marxist tidal wave, then the country will be lost. And so RFK Jr. said, it is now all hands on deck. This is no longer about a Republican Party or two presidential candidates. As RFK Jr. put it, this is now a movement, a larger movement, bigger than any one person, bigger than any political party, that now must stop the coming communist revolution. Listen now to RFK Jr. It was an incredible speech. He delivered first a press conference, and he gave it to the media, forget both barrels. He gave it to them again and again and again, saying that they are now completely in favor of one-party rule, that they have abandoned their jobs as truth sayers and as holding people in power accountable. But as he put it, you have now become mouthpieces for the Democratic Party and the Democratic National Committee. You are nothing more than propaganda. And listen to him now say, yes, democracy is on the line in November, but the threat does not come from Trump. The threat comes from Kamala Harris, from Joe Biden, and from the entire corrupt, venal Democrat media industrial complex. Listen to RFK. Man, I got to tell you, you want to talk about an historic speech. This was one of the greatest speeches I have ever heard in my life. Roll cut one, Mike.
In a system of nonpartisan courts and election boards, everything would be different. After all, the polls consistently showed me beating each of the other candidates, both in favorability and also in head-to-head matchups. But I'm sorry to say that while democracy may still be alive at the grassroots, it has become little more than a slogan for our political institutions, for our media, and for our government, and most sadly at all for me, for the Democratic Party.
He's completely right. Honestly, he's completely right. And look, he laid out, brilliantly, coherently, powerfully, how, in his words, again, not mine, while everyone was focused on the lawfare against Trump, and he says there's no question that there was lawfare against Trump. No question. He said they were waging lawfare against me. They sued to make sure I couldn't get on the ballot. They harassed and intimidated my campaign. They placed saboteurs and plants inside my campaign to destroy it and disrupt it from within. He said, this is no longer a democracy. I don't know what these people are talking about. They don't want me on the ballot. And what they did was they found Democrat-aligned judges, hacks, like they did with Trump. And they chased me state after state after state. The party of supposed democracy wouldn't allow me to even challenge Joe Biden in a primary. And then I said, fine, let me run as an independent. And they wouldn't let me run as an independent because they kept blocking access to the ballot in every single state, using dirty tricks and out lawfare, censorship, and persecution. He says, I'm telling you, these people are political thugs and political gangsters. And the most powerful parts of his speech, where he said, I stand before you, the son of Robert Kennedy, the nephew of John F. Kennedy. I am a liberal. I am a lifelong Democrat. And my party has abandoned me. This is not the party my father or my uncle would recognize in any way, shape, or form. They would be horrified by it. And he listed everything that he stands for, that his father and his uncle stood for. And I want all of you to listen to this. Because as I listened, I'm like, he's completely right. Now, let me ask you if the Democrats still believe in any of this. Civil rights? Free and fair elections? Transparency in government? Defending labor and the working class? A good, decent, clean environment? Not climate change, not fanaticism. On issue after issue, he said we were once the party that opposed authoritarianism, opposed colonialism, opposed imperialism, opposed censorship. We were always for the little guy. Now, he says the whole party has been taken over by globalist oligarchs. They're for big pharma. They're for big tech. They're for big business. They're for big agri. They're for big media. They openly espouse censorship. They openly espouse going after political opponents, jailing political opponents, suing political opponents, harassing political opponents. They work in the shadows. There's nothing transparent about this regime. And he pointed straight to Kamala Harris, saying, my God, they implemented a coup against a sitting president of the United States who won 14 million Democrat votes in the primary. And they overthrew him like it was nothing. And then, as he put it, the same shadowy Democrat operatives installed a woman who never received a single vote. My father, my uncle are rolling in their graves. And listen now to RFK Jr. saying what the Democrats are now saying and what the Democrats are now doing is we must destroy democracy, or as he put it, dismantle democracy in order to, quote unquote, save democracy. Roll cut to Mike.
In the name of saving democracy, the Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions.
I mean, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And you lecture us about democracy? Are you kidding me? They're political thugs. Now, listen to him. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail. It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden. Then, when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020.
I mean, it's incredible. And it went on. I got to tell you, it was truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. My friends, let me tell you the significance of this. What we are now watching is an incredible new political coalition being born right in front of our eyes. And this coalition is going to put Trump over the top in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. RFK may have just handed Trump the White House. 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, historic. There's just no other way to describe it. An historic move by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. along with Donald Trump. They have now formed an alliance. They're calling it a unity government. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now has suspended his campaign. It was officially announced Friday at a press conference. Later, RFK Jr. joined Trump at a rally in Arizona. It was absolutely electric. I mean, he was introduced as a rock star, and MAGA welcomed him with open arms because everybody now senses that this is now an historic fundamental turning point in the 2024 campaign. RFK Jr. now is urging all of his supporters, especially in the key battleground states, to vote for Trump, to go all in on Trump. Trump has now promised that he will give RFK a prominent role in his administration should he win, when he wins in November. And so what you're now seeing is a new majority political coalition being built right in front of our eyes. And let me tell you this right now. This decision by RFK is going to add 2, 3, 4 percentage points to Donald Trump in Georgia, in Arizona, in Nevada, in Pennsylvania, which I believe is going to be the state that really decides the election this year, Michigan, Wisconsin. In other words, this move by RFK Jr., supporting, endorsing, and by the way, he's going to be campaigning vigorously for Trump. In fact, they're going to be side by side at many events, is going to put Trump over the top. In all of those key battleground states, it will be the decisive factor. And now the media, they're in full meltdown mode. As Erin Burnett from CNN put it, I thought she had tears in her eyes. This is it. This is everything. Now they are unloading on this man. Honestly, I feel very sorry for RFK Jr. His siblings, his brothers and sisters issued a statement blasting him, saying he is now burning the legacy, setting fire to the legacy of his father, Robert F. Kennedy. They are viciously attacking. In fact, they're disavowing him, saying he's no longer our brother. He's no longer our sibling. We want nothing to do with him. They are severing relations with this man. The Kamala campaign is now calling him a fringe candidate. MAGA, yep, a fascist, a Nazi, a white supremacist, you know, the usual routine. Now he must be destroyed in the eyes of the public. And so there is a massive propaganda campaign being unleashed to vilify, demonize, and slander this man. A lifelong Democrat until recently. A man with impeccable liberal credentials on issue after issue after issue. And yet now, because of his mistreatment at the hands of the Democratic National Committee, because of his mistreatment at the hands of the Democrat machine, and the thugs and the gangsters and the criminals and the oligarchs who run it, and he laid it all out. He goes, was Biden a weak candidate? Yes. Was he clearly suffering from signs of dementia? Yes. So I said, let me offer a better alternative. I'm a Kennedy, for God's sake. What about my Uncle Teddy? What about my father, Bobby? What about my uncle, John F. Kennedy, JFK? What's wrong with you people? I can't challenge a sitting incumbent president? We can't have primaries anymore? They rigged it against him and marginalized him and censored him and suppressed him. He said they gave me no choice. So he ran as an independent. They forced him to run as an independent. Then when he ran as an independent, he said they denied me Secret Service protection. They then threatened me and my family. They then openly censored me. Then they waged relentless lawfare. Not the Republicans, not the RNC, not Donald Trump. No, 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 no. It was the Biden-Harris regime and the Democrat National Committee, and they blocked me in ballot after ballot after ballot. And they're the party of democracy? As they waged relentless lawfare against me? And then employed a dirty tricks campaign that would make Nixon blush? These are totalitarian thugs. And as as RFK Jr. said, they must not be allowed to win in November. And for all of our differences, we agree on a lot more than we disagree. Listen now to RFK saying, look now how they're trying to sell Kamala. No policies, no interviews, no press, nothing. Roll cut 3, Mike.
Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus.
He's completely right. Now, he's making a very common sense point. You want us to vote for someone, but she won't tell us what she stands for now. You want us to vote for President of the United States, someone who refuses to do an interview? Who refuses to tell us what she's going to do when she gets into the White House? In other words, like as Nancy Pelosi famously said about Obamacare, you have to pass it to find out what's in it, so we have to vote for her to find out what she's going to do? They are the enemies of democracy. 6:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are loaded. So let me set the table and go right to the great audience of Kuhner Country. RFK Jr. now. You want to talk about a bombshell. Not only suspends his campaign, but goes out and endorses President Trump. He then goes to a rally with Trump. There they are, arm in arm together, saying they're going to form now a coalition and alliance to get Trump into the White House in November. My question to you, double-barreled question. What do you make of RFK's decision? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And did RFK now just hand Trump the election? Is this now going to lead to a major Trump victory and a devastating defeat for Kamala Harris? I can tell you this, in private, the Harris people are in absolute panic. They are worried. They realize now this now may be a bridge too far. especially in the key swing battleground states, that Kennedy now has given RFK, by his support, his full-throated endorsement, is now giving Trump a decisive edge. As I mentioned, in Arizona, in Nevada, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and Wisconsin. And so, should Trump welcome Kennedy? Should he offer him a position in his administration? What say you? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Vince in Deutschland. Vince in Germany. Thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome. Vince? Okay, maybe we got a little, let's see, maybe get a better connection there. The guy's, he's across the ocean in the middle of Europe. Let's go to, who do you want to go to next, Mike? Let's go to Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Professor Coach Kuhner. To us, you are Dr. Kuhner. You shepherd us through dark days, keeping us informed. God bless you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Thank you, Russ.
And I mean that with my whole heart and soul. Jeff, under the leadership of Harris and Obama, they screwed RFK Jr. And let's not forget the Black Caucus. RFK played a major role in the civil rights movement. This is how they paid back RFK, by screwing his son. They are ungrateful snakes, and that's all there is to it. They are ungrateful snakes. And members of the Kennedy family who turned on RFK, they are nothing but a bunch of self-serving hacks. They are trust fund useless babies. That's what the hell they are. They ought to shut their mouth. And remember one thing, people might think you're ignorant, but then you open your mouth and you remove all doubt. And it's time for people of goodwill to abandon the Democratic Party. Democratic voters are influenced by propaganda. This is the last chance we have to save this republic and our way of life from the Karl Marx Democratic Party. That's what they are. They're the party of Karl Marx. They are no effing good, one bit. And only President Trump, our political savior, can get this derailed freedom train back on track, making us great again. Harris has no core values. Her answer is always blowing in the wind. She's a good con artist. And again, I'll repeat that again. She's a great con artist. We must give God the opportunity to dwell in our land again. And I am in total agreement with RFK Jr. He says everything. He's right on the point. And he's a person of honor. He's a patriot, like all of us here in Kuhner country. We love the United States of America. And we've got to beat these SOBs, Jeff. If not, we're on the road to hell.
Oh, amen. Honestly, Russ, you pretty much summed up RFK's message and his incredible speech on Friday. That was ultimately that was his argument. I am a patriot, and we cannot hand this country over to these Marxist communist fanatics who have now hijacked the Democratic Party. And so for the good of our country, he said, everybody must back Trump. This is a unity government now. Thank you so much for that call, Russ. And just very, very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. Look, I don't want to get into the family very much. I really don't. It's, the Kennedys, it's a very sordid history. A lot of them have some, serious personal problems. But I just got to say this. The way they're now vilifying is not the word. It just isn't. The way they are roasting RFK Jr., attacking him, maligning him, disowning him. Brothers and sisters disowning a sibling over what? Did he murder somebody? Did he rape somebody? Is he some notorious, arms dealer or drug dealer? He's just, I'm telling you, RFK Jr. has not changed his positions in 40 years. He's a replica of his father and his uncle. And what he's just saying is, and this is to me, this is the meaning of Kennedy's endorsement. This is what is so powerful about it. Here is whatever you think of RFK, and I disagree with him on many, many issues, believe me, but he is, I'm going to give him his due, he is a principled liberal Democrat. He is pro-civil liberties, pro-labor, pro-working class, pro-environment, anti-big pharma, anti-censorship, pro-transparency in government. He's anti-war. He's anti-deep state. He's anti-establishment. That's his father. That's his old man. That's his old man. And so what the RFK decision to endorse Trump, listen to what he's saying. What he's saying is that Harris in particular, but Biden obviously and Obama and everybody else, but what he's saying is that the modern Democratic Party, the Harris, Biden, Obama Democrat Party, has become so radical and so left-wing, it is now outside the mainstream of American life. And he's saying, as a Democrat, as a liberal, progressive Democrat, I can't support these thugs and gangsters. For the good of the country, for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, their words, we're a republic. I know we're a republic, but their words, for our democracy. Because they have to lose. Now, you're a member of the family. And you have blind loyalty to the Democratic Party. You know, it's the party, the party, the party. Fine. You disagree with them. Fine. You even go out and criticize them. But to say we're never going to speak again? To say we want nothing to do with you? To say we disown you? To say you're no longer welcome at any family function? I thought blood was thicker than water. I mean, in the end, we're blood, we're siblings. Whatever our political disagreements are, we're family. Who cares? Not with these Kennedys. He has lost everything now. RFK Jr. has lost everything by endorsing Trump. He's lost most of his friends. He's lost his family. By the way, the SOBs in the Biden regime, the moment he came out and suspended his campaign and endorsed Trump, they have now rescinded and revoked his Secret Service protection. Now he's twisting in the wind. There's a huge target on his back. And he's openly said it. He goes, I'm getting death threat after death threat after death threat. And they revoke my Secret Service protection. Okay? Those vindictive SOBs in the Biden-Harris regime. And listen how graceful he is, how courteous he is. He's asked by Fox, this is an interview now. Well, you know, your own family has disowned you. Look at how he handles it. Class all the way. Roll cut 11C, Mike.
Going to be campaigning actively. I think President Trump is going to make a series of
that was my bad, Mike. Mike, that was my bad. Forgive me. That was my mistake. That should have been 11B. Okay, we don't have time to play it now. Mike, my apologies. We don't have time to play it now. Do we? Mike, how much time left? Okay, go ahead. Roll it, Mike. 11B.
My family is at the center of the Democratic Party. I have 5 members of my family that are working for the Biden administration. President Biden has a bust of my father behind him at the Oval Office. He's been a family friend for many, many years. And my family is, I understand that they're troubled by my decisions, but, you know, I love my family. I feel like we were raised in a milieu where we were encouraged to debate each other and debate ferociously and passionately about things, but to still love each other. So, you know, they can, they're free to take their positions on these issues. There are many, many members of my family who are working in my campaign, who are supporting me. I have a very big family. There's a few of them that are troubled. But, you know, I think we all need to be able to disagree with each other and still love each other.
They disown him, and he says, I love them. Can I be honest? That's our movement. That's our movement. No matter how much we're hated, we love our country. Your reaction next. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. You can also text us 70470. Okay, my friends, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Again, Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Trump with RFK Jr. Is he now unbeatable? That's the question I want to pose to all of you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. Now with the full endorsement and backing, he's even going to campaign for Trump in every key battleground state. Now that RFK is fully behind Trump, will this make Trump unbeatable in November? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, as you saw last night. Kuhnerman, very active on X. I encourage all of you to follow me. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Let's go back to Vince in Germany. Do we have a contact with Vince? Vince, thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. How you hear me? Good?
I'm hearing you loud and clear, my friend. Go ahead.
All right, I got 2 points I want to make, too. Have you seen the video of RFK going on stage? The perspective is taken from behind as he's walking on stage in Arizona, and how electric the crowd is. And then it shows from behind him and Trump standing together, talking to one another, and Trump puts his hand on his back, and it just shows the intimacy of the relationship between the two men. Have you seen that video?
Yes, Vince.
It's gone viral on X. Okay. The other point I want to make is the arrest of Pavel Durov over the weekend. He is the founder, the owner of Telegram. The man is worth $15 billion. I believe
Vince, Vince, I promise I'll let you finish just for the audience, because not everybody knows about Telegram. It is you tell me if I'm mischaracterizing or misidentifying it. Telegram is a very popular social media site. It's sort of like a version of X, but it's really, you want to talk about free speech. It's a real free speech zone. So a lot of people post on Telegram, and the CEO and founder of Telegram was arrested in France, believe it or not, for not moderating his platform enough, i.e. not censoring people. Am I wrong, Vince?
Correct. And the man is worth $15 billion. So, setting the table, I believe that the globalists are in a full panic mode. They're really panicked about Elon Musk and X. I believe that their next move is to try to arrest Elon Musk, shut down X, and extradite him to either the UK or the EU, and try to quash the message, because I believe they already have a way to steal it, and they need to shut down any debate after they steal it and declare Kamala Harris the winner. That's what I believe is going to happen.
Vince, as always, thank you for your call. By the way, there are a lot of similarities between Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Like RFK, Elon was a Democrat, a liberal Democrat, more of a moderate liberal Democrat, but nevertheless a Democrat. And he's saying, my party left me. I don't recognize this new animal that is the so-called Democrat Party. This is the Democrat Communist Party. And it's on issues like censorship, like freedom of expression, like civil liberties, like the repressive COVID lockdowns. The war in Ukraine. I'm going to get to this for RFK Jr. That's a huge issue for him. Saying the only true peace candidate in the race, the only candidate that's willing to stand up to the military-industrial complex is Trump. So what you're now starting to see, a lot of disillusioned, disaffected Democrats are bolting, leaving the Democratic Party, and they're coming into our tent. And to me, we should welcome all of them. Welcome every single one of them. We may have our differences. We can settle those later. That's okay. We'll settle those. After we save our country, we can settle our differences. But right now, this regime and this campaign, this Harris-Biden regime must fall. 617-266-6868. David in County Dorchester. Do I have that right, Mike? All right, go ahead, David.
That's what the Irish, around Adams Corner and everything, Jeff, the Irish immigrants call it County Dorchester.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I never heard of that one before, David. You know, you always teach me something, my friend. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Teach you something more important than that. But, Jeff, listen, Mr. Valentine revealed and exposed the phantom voting. Now, Oprah Winfrey appeared at that Demon Rat Freak Show out in Chicago as prima donna, as usual, prima donna Oprah Winfrey, upstaging everybody. Now, a lot of people connect the dots. Well, I don't waste my time connecting dots. How I phrase it, Jeff, I connect the stars. And connecting a few stars here, you know how I'm billing that Demon Rat Freak Show that just happened out in Chicago, Jeff? I'm billing it as the Phantom of the Oprah. The Phantom of the Oprah, okay? That's what I'm billing that freak show as. But if you combine the phantom voting, how they plan to steal the election again from Trump, and Oprah Winfrey, the Phantom of the Oprah. That's how I'm billing that freak show. But anyway,
that is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. David, thank you very, very much for that call. By the way, just to give all of you a quick update. So as you know, we had Jay Valentine on last week. He's one of the country's leading election fraud experts. We had him on for about, I think, a good 20 minutes. And he laid out exactly how the Democrats are planning to steal and cheat this time around. And how they're going to do it is through phantom voters. This is what David was referring to in phantom votes. All these illegals that they're bringing in, they are registering them in addresses, but they're not residential addresses. They are registering them in gas stations, Walmarts, restaurants, you name it, 7-Elevens. And then the NGOs scoop up all their mail-in ballots. That's how the game is played. It's ballot harvesting. And they just check in all these ballots. So these are phantom votes, phantom ballots. That information I passed on to Trump's inner circle. They are now aware of it. Trust me when I tell you this. They're very aware of it. And they are working like hell proactively to expose this completely and prevent it. So what I'm going to be doing now, all the way up until November, is I'm going to continue to be exposing any attempt by the Democrats at voter fraud. Because at this point now, sunlight is the best disinfectant. We can't bury our heads in the sand. What the RFK Jr. endorsement to me clearly means is that the Democrats cannot win this in a free and fair election. There's no way now. There's just no way. When you have millions and millions of disaffected Democrats now pouring into Trump's ranks, and even the mainstream, so-called mainstream media, the establishment media, the corporate media, they're admitting this is going to give Trump a huge boost, 2, 3, 4 points in these key battleground states. She can't win. She can't win. The only way now they can win is through voter fraud. So we have to expose this fraud relentlessly from now until November. If we do, Trump will win. It's really now that simple. Agree, disagree. Jake in Tewksbury. Thanks for holding, Jake, and welcome.
Jeff, it's Jack in Tewksbury, buddy.
I'm so sorry. My mistake. Jack in Tewksbury. My bad.
How are you, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Jack?
Good. Jeff, two things really quick. Number one, I think it's great Robert Kennedy's on our side. He's a very intelligent man. And the best part of the whole thing, Jeff, is even though we have some disagreements, we have a lot more in common. And that is a nice thing to see once in a while. You know what I mean? Some common sense on the other side. He's the moderate Democrat that we've been looking for all this time. The sad thing, Jeff, will they be enough? We don't know. You know they can't be trusted. You know they got a lot of more tricks up their sleeves than what we're finding out.
Well, Jack, look, they're not going to stop. You're right. Look, that's, to me, the most powerful. There were so many powerful parts of his speech. And, Jack, I urge you, if you hadn't seen it, and I'm urging the entire audience, trust me when I tell you this. Find that speech. It's everywhere on social media. And just watch it. It is an incredible speech for its honesty. I'm not saying, because, you know, he has these throat issues and muscular problems with his throat, so it kind of hurts his delivery a little bit, the way he talks. And I feel bad for him. I'm just stating a fact. So as an orator, it kind of hampers him. But it's the content, and it's the brutal truth and honesty, the sincerity. The way he just laid it all out. He didn't hide anything. He didn't keep anything from the public. And here's what he said. He goes, they forced me out. My own party has become so intolerant, so authoritarian, so full of suppression and censorship, so corrupt. They forced me out of my own party. I'm a Kennedy. He kept saying this over and over again. Do you know what it is for me to endorse a Republican? That's almost unheard of. That's like, you know, the leader of, I don't know, a prominent Baptist church or an Episcopalian church, or, you know, endorsing the Pope. He goes, you have to understand, this is, it was unthinkable in my family. You're born a Democrat, you die a Democrat, period. But they have become so radical, so extreme, so tyrannical, so vicious and nasty. And when he lays out all of the dirty tricks and the lawfare and the threats and the intimidation and the sheer intolerance, and he said, what I realize is this is a monster. This is a communist, Marxist, authoritarian party. You know, and they keep going on about Donald Trump being the enemy of democracy. He said this over and over again. The only ones are them. And he goes, I'm warning everybody. It's Trump or bust in November. Because they're going to get even more emboldened, more powerful, and more dangerous. So, honestly, Jack, it was one of the most incredible, heartfelt speeches I have ever seen in my life. And it's a warning. It's a warning to our country. Jack, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Listen now to RFK saying, look at what they're basing their entire campaign on. Hate. And hate for one man and one man alone. Roll cut 4, Mike.
In Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days.
Now, so he's basically saying all they have is hate, and all they're doing is inflaming their supporters. Now, listen to this. He goes, I'm a Kennedy. At times, which is true, I was polling in the 20s. In the 20s. Okay, I'm not talking 12, 13, which is a lot for an independent. 12, 13, 14, 15%. I at times was at 22, 23, 24, 25%. And he said, remember Ross Perot in 1992? For those of you old enough, I do. He goes, say what you want about Ross Perot. I had numbers similar to Ross Perot. In those days, 30 years ago, the media interviewed him because he was an important figure. Why? Because the guy's polling in the 20s. Even if he doesn't win, he'll have a decisive impact on the election. So it's an important story. Many Americans, millions, are going to vote for him, and he may decide who the winner and loser of the election is. So what does he have to say? What does he stand for? What are his policies? And so he goes, they did interview after interview after interview with Ross Perot. Why? To inform the public. He goes, the media, those days are gone. They are now, as he put it, his words, organs of political power, organs of the Democratic Party. They have become nothing more and nothing less than propaganda. Listen now to RFK. Roll cut 5, Mike.
I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters.
I mean, think about what, think about what he just said. They disenfranchised voters. They abandoned democracy. They have weaponized, which is another way of saying they've co-opted. They now control all of the agencies and instruments of power. What he's saying is they're forming a dictatorship. He goes right in front of our eyes. And this is the best part. I could play so much more, I'm going to weave them in throughout the entire show, I promise. I want to go back to the phone lines. But then he stared at all the media in the room. It was a beautiful, if I can use this, it was Trump-esque. It was Trumpian. I'm telling you. It was like, wow, Donald Trump would do something like this. He looked at every media outlet in the room, from CNN to MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post. He looked at all of them. The so-called legacy media, as it's called, the elite media. And he looked at them and said, I blame you. Out of everything, I blame you. Roll cut 6, Mike.
What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes with or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it's an attack on our most sacred right of free expression, and that's the very right upon which all of our other constitutional rights rest.
He sounds like me. I could not have said it. 35 seconds. It's a 35-second clip you just heard. I could not have said it any better in 35 seconds. And what he's specifically referring to, and this was a big scandal. And I covered it extensively. The propaganda media buried it. They suppressed it. They didn't want their people, their listeners or their readers or their viewers to see this. But it all came out. It all came out in the Twitter files. Joe Biden specifically and top people around him, from Merrick Garland to Kamala Harris to Fauci, contacted then the owner of Twitter at the time, Jack Dorsey, who, bought over by Elon now, but at the time it was Jack Dorsey. And they specifically said, censor Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Remember, he was criticizing the vaccine. He was criticizing the mask mandates. He was criticizing the lockdowns. He was criticizing that they were covering up that this was a lab leak from China. By the way, he was right on the lab leak. He was right about the vaccine. He was right about the mask mandates. He was right about the lockdowns. He was right about Fauci. Everything he said turned out to be 1,000% true. And literally, Biden ordered Twitter and other social media companies and the media, don't play RF Kennedy. Take his post down. I want you to vilify him. You have to call him a crazy conspiracy theorist. You have to call him a kook. And he's saying, you and the media, you completely collaborated and cooperated in censoring dissenting voices that, by the way, turned out to be 1,000% accurate. You are enabling this assault and destruction of our country and of our fundamental institutions and of our democracy. You, all of you in this room. And you could tell, you could hear a pin drop because they know he's right. He's completely right. He's shaming them. Pat in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Pat, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure,
Pat. I was surprised when you said earlier that JFK or RFK Jr. said that his family disowned him. Well, my family has been divided since Obama, and it has only gotten worse. So I can't even tolerate talking to half of my family because they do not avail themselves to information. I will avail myself to information about liberals. I already know they're deranged, but I do know that Kamala has and I live in California as well, so I know California and the people that were elected there, how they just brought.
Pat, can you do me a big favor? I'm up against a hard break. Please, I want to take the rest of your call on the other side. Pat says, just like RFK Jr., she has now serious squabbles and dissent and division within her own family. 7:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, super quick reset. I want to go right back to Pat in New Hampshire. So, RFK Jr., when I say bombshell, holy shamoly. It's a nuclear bomb. A political nuclear bomb, endorses Donald J. Trump. In fact, says now they're going to have a unity government. He is going to serve in the Trump administration. And I want to get into greater detail because Trump is going all in now with RFK. You're not going to believe what he's now proposing and what RFK has agreed to. But the point is, RFK now will not only endorse Trump, he is now going to actively campaign with Trump and for Trump in every key battleground state. For this, RFK Jr.'s family has completely disowned him. They are vilifying him. They hate him. They loathe him. They're basically kicking him out of the Kennedy family. So no more Thanksgiving dinner, no more Christmases together. It's all out civil war now within the Kennedy clan. Let's go back to Pat in New Hampshire. Pat, you were saying you've been having similar problems with members of your family, but this went all the way back to the Obama years. Please, Pat, pick up where you left off.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, I was always, I'm from Chicago originally, and I did my research on Obama, and there's a lot of things people won't talk about him, and I'm not going to mention because it probably, but people can do their research on their own. And I live in New Hampshire now, but ever since Obama, we have just been totally divided, half my family. And I used to go back for holidays. I don't. People joke about, like during the pandemic about social distancing. I think the political social distancing that has been occurring for years and years is one that is more important than the actual, if you have cold social distancing, because families are torn apart. I mean, I believe half my family are anti-American. They do not have tolerance to listen to your opinion. You cannot engage in a conversation with them. They are just so programmed, and it's just intolerable. And even if it's family, I mean, there are things that you just can't tolerate as an American. You have to stand up for this country and for your grandchildren and your children. And to me, they do not care about their children and grandchildren. And to see what's occurring in this country and to literally say that you were better off these last 3.5 years, you have zero gray matter. Zero.
Pat, of course I agree with you on every single political point you've made. Not, as I like to say, not 100%, but 1,000%. Here is what I can't wrap my mind around. My father and I, he's very sick now, so I say this with all due respect to my dad. My father and I violently disagreed on politics. I can't tell you how often we disagreed. And we had extremely heated, passionate arguments to the point that my mother and Grace would tell us to stop, to just knock it off. Enough is enough. But I never severed relations with my dad because he's my dad. And the reason why I'm just mentioning this, Pat, is I don't know how the Kennedy clan can do this to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You were brothers. You are brothers. You're sisters. You were all young together. I said this to Ashton yesterday. It was very funny that, we're talking about this now. I said, I see Ashton now. He's 14. He's starting to develop his own political views. I said, listen, Ashton, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what you do in life. I just want you to be a good, decent person. But the one thing I never want is for you to fight with your sister. I look at Ashton and Ava, how they grew up together, how they loved each other, how they play with each other, how they tease each other. And I'm like, you guys are going to sever this incredible bond, this primal bond of blood, this blood bond over politics? So then just don't talk politics. That's what I'm going to tell when they get a little bit older. I'm going to say, look, I don't want to hear that you guys fight over politics. Listen to each other, respect each other. If you want, debate each other. As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. put it, debate passionately. That's okay. But in the end, love each other. Your family, and just agree to disagree. And if you can't agree to disagree, then just don't talk politics. That's it. Just say, I'm sorry, you know what, look, you and I don't agree, so let's talk about something else. How are you? How's your health? How are your kids? How's work? There's a million other things to talk about. But to me, to sever a relationship, a familial blood relationship over politics, honestly, Pat, I look at these Democrats, I look at these Kennedys, they're diabolical. Last word to you.
I know it seems unfathomable, but when it's very hard not to bring politics into things when my sister, when I talked to them, oh my God, the price of, this went up. And then you're like, well, do you know why the price of this went up?
No, I hear you. No, Pat, look, there's no question. I mean, I hear you. What I'm just saying is you try to get along with each other. I mean, she is your sister. You don't want to have politics break a relationship. After all, she's your blood. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is an absolutely brilliant text. I mean, an absolutely brilliant text that I think really says it all. Jeff, RFK Jr., by the way, 781. Jeff, RFK Jr. is to the establishment Marxist left what Trump is to the establishment neocon right. A reformer, quote unquote. And that's why they oppose him. RFK represents what the Democrat Party used to be before it was completely taken over by hardcore criminal communists. Neither party's establishment wants either of these men because they are uncorrupt. And both men want what's best for the country they love. That makes these two men the ultimate threat to the establishment uniparty cabal. Bingo. Bingo. Absolutely nailed it. What RFK is a threat to the establishment Marxist left, the way Trump is a threat to the establishment neocon right, or the rhinos. You want to call it the Bush wing, the Bush, Romney, Nikki Haley wing of the Republican Party, whatever, however you want to phrase it. And both men are not corrupt. They're not on the take. They want what's best for their country. They're even willing to put country above party again and again and again. And that's why they come together on certain key issues, like the border, like Ukraine, like the deep state, like the First Amendment and freedom of speech. Whatever their other differences, these are fundamental values, fundamental beliefs that they know the country is now in the process of destroying and that needs to be saved. And that's why this is a huge, huge, huge development. Now, I want to read another quick text and then go back to the phone lines because it's expressing what many of you are thinking. Jeff, by the way, 617. Jeff, I'd love to be able to call in. I'm at work. It makes it nearly impossible. However, I believe that the Democrats are planning to steal the election. The steal is on, and it will be successful. The interview with Jay Valentine that you had, the info that he gave out, really convinced me. Now, this is what I think. As I mentioned, 617, I've already sent all of that information to Trump's inner circle. They are, believe me, they are well now aware of what the Democrat strategy and their plan is, and they are working around the clock now to disrupt and prevent it. That's number one. But number two, here's to me the deeper significance of RFK's endorsement. What he has now done by endorsing and campaigning for Trump is he's now made it very difficult, almost impossible, to give Kamala Harris and the Democrats the veneer, the plausible veneer of stealing the election in November. Because we're now talking about Trump is going to get a huge boost. We're talking 2, 3, 4 percentage points, especially in all of the key swing states. And so now, with all of these millions and millions of disaffected Kennedy Democrats and independents pouring into Trump's movement, pouring into Trump's tent, they still want us to believe that Kamala Harris won? Should they steal the election in November? It's going to make it much harder now for them to steal. Now, get ready for another bombshell. According to multiple media reports, now these are still rumors. Okay, so I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if, I underline the word if it happens, it's going to be another bomb. Jill Stein, there are now reports that Jill Stein, the leader of the Green Party, is now going to endorse Donald Trump. The Green Party. So the environmentalists, the left-wing environmentalists, now say they're going to back Trump. And you say, well, Jeff, Trump is, he doesn't believe in man-made climate change. Why would she back him? In a text that she sent out over the weekend, these are Jill Stein's words. I don't agree with RFK on many issues, But on the issue of democracy and lawfare, he is completely right. The Democrats are doing everything to prevent me and the Green Party from getting access to the ballot. They are suing us. They are blocking us. They are censoring us. They are suppressing us. They are using all kinds of dirty political tricks to prevent us from even being on the ballot so people can vote for our party. They are now the party against democracy. And so to preserve and defend democracy, listen to this. Jill Stein is now saying we may have no choice but to suspend our campaign and endorse Donald Trump. So the Green Party, now you may think nothing of the Green Party, but look at the elections of the last 20 years. The Green Party gets about 2% of the vote consistently. 2-3% of the vote. Remember Ralph Nader in 2000 basically cost Al Gore the election against George W. Bush? Because if Nader's voters had shifted to Al Gore, Gore would have won. Hillary Clinton can't stand Jill Stein, blaming her for her loss to Trump in 2016 because the Green Party got a couple percentage points of the votes and she believed that made all the difference. My point is, now even the Green Party is thinking of joining the Trump movement in a united coalition, a united front against this impending dictatorship, this Marxist revolution that the Democrats want to impose in November. Now, final point. RFK Jr., in an interview on Fox yesterday, said, I'm telling you, I am the first of other major Democrats or former Democrats to come out and endorse Trump. More are coming. I'm just the tip of the iceberg. So he's saying now, get ready. There are many more like me, and these are influential, prominent people who are now going to come out and say, this party under Harris-Biden, too radical, too left-wing, too extreme, frankly, too Marxist, too communist, too totalitarian, too authoritarian. For us to vote for, we need Trump. And so what do all of these people have in common? I mean, we're talking now about Jill Stein, Bobby Kennedy, I could go on, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, I could go across the board. What do they all have in common? They're anti-war. They're anti-big pharma. They're anti-deep state. They're anti-establishment. They're anti-authoritarianism. They're pro-free speech, pro-Bill of Rights, pro-Constitution. Ultimately, they're pro-America. This is the coalition that's going to save our country. 617-266-6868 is the number. And Trump is the enemy of democracy? This endorsement by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and that magnificent speech he delivered just destroyed, shattered, blew to smithereens the entire Democrat narrative about Trump being a wannabe dictator. Agree, disagree? Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
Hi, Mel.
Hi. You know, I've got to change my opinion over on about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. At least 95% in his favor. I still have issue with what he had mentioned in regards to arresting any climate change deniers. But, that's small potatoes in that regard. I think he might have just been bloviating and just trying to get some sort of a strong point across. But what he mentioned in regards to agribusiness and what's being done by the FDA to our children's food, our food, what we buy in the store, what children are served at school in regards to all the toxic chemicals that shouldn't be in our foods in the first place. they're banned in Europe, but we still serve it here in America. That he mentioned that we should love our children more than we hate ourselves, and that really touched a nerve with me. That made me change my opinion in regards to what he stands for or stood for in the past. I'm in favor of RFK Jr. I mean, it shows that he has compassion, and our children are more important than any of us. Our future, they are our future, and that's what we must sacrifice for. So with that, that's all I want to.
Oh, Mel, very well said. Very powerful and very well said. No, that was another point he made, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later in the show. But he says, I don't want to just make America great again. I want to make America healthy again. And the processed foods, the chemicals, the stuff they're injecting in our foods, which have been banned in Europe, it's got to stop here. 7:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, very, very quick, because I want to go to the blazing phone lines. Here is what Jill Stein, the leader of the Green Party, wrote recently. Quote, this is what she said on X. Quote, we may disagree with RFK Jr. about many things, but he's right about how the Democratic Party uses lawfare and dirty tricks to suppress Democratic competition and voter choice. The Dems preach about, quote, saving democracy, unquote, but in reality, they're working overtime to stamp it out. So, again, just to repeat, there are media reports. I'm just going by what the media reports are saying. There are rumors that Jill Stein now is set to drop out and endorse President Trump. Now, if that happens, holy shamoly. Okay. And you still going to claim Kamala's going to win in November? I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, very, very quick. This was the heart of his press conference, saying Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the left, liberals, Dems, keep going on. The media in particular, Putin, he's a threat to democracy, Putin. And he said, after everything I experienced from the media, from the Democratic Party, from the DNC, we have no business lecturing Vladimir Putin. Listen now to this. This is Kennedy at his press conference Friday announcing he's suspending his campaign and that he's endorsing Donald Trump and that, in fact, he's going to campaign with Trump all the way to November 5th. Roll cut 6A. Mike.
President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year, in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near-perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage.
I challenge a single liberal or Democrat who is voting for Kamala Harris to call into this show, 617-266-6868, and challenge a single word that Kennedy just said. Did they censor him? Yes. Did they keep him off the debate stage? Yes. Did the Democrats wage continuous, relentless lawfare to block him in battleground state after battleground state? Yes. Did the media do vicious, vile hit piece after hit piece, defamation after defamation? Yes. Just as Putin controls the state media in Madarasha, and I'll just throw this in, the communist Chinese, Beijing, Xi Jinping controls the state media in China. The Democrats, Harris and Biden, control the media, in the corporate media in this country. And their mission was to destroy Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I thought you were all for democracy, competition, transparency, voter choice. Give people a chance, a choice who they want to vote for. No. They waged lawfare against RFK Jr. exactly the same way they waged lawfare against Donald Trump. And I believe it is this political persecution of these two men that has now driven them into each other's arms. And together, they're going to form a unity government and a national, bipartisan, pro-America movement of disaffected Republicans, disaffected Democrats, independents, MAGA supporters, everybody across the board that is going to reshape American politics and overthrow the corrupt, vile establishment. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. What do you make of RFK's endorsement of Trump? And did he just now essentially guarantee Trump's victory in November? Deb in Foxborough. Deb, my fellow paisan, how are you?
How are you?
Pardon me, Deb?
I said I'm great. How are you?
Oh, man, after Friday, I'm on cloud nine. I had a wonderful weekend, Deb. I was pumping my fist. Ashley's like, Dad, what are you pumping your fist for? I'm like, RFK endorsed Trump. So I've been pumping my fist all weekend, Deb.
Well, that's a great pastime. I did the same thing. I watched the rally with Trump. It was magnificent. The union there, I loved it. And to hear about Jill Stein this morning, it's just great news. Couldn't be better. But I have something to tell you about. It happened to me last week. I received a piece of Trump mail, which I have received tons of it in the past. This time, I'm very isolated. I received this piece. But the date on it was July 18th. It was on August 22nd I received this. And I'm wondering if the U.S. Post Office is involved in mail holding for fundraising efforts of President Trump.
Well, Deb in particular, what troubled you?
The fact that it was over a month late. It was a month and 4 days late. According to the date on the letter, it was sent out July 18th. Well, that was dated July 18th.
Wow. Well, look, I know there's been a lot of questions about the Postal Service union, not individual Postal Service workers. That's a different story. But that the union has endorsed first Biden and now Kamala Harris. And so the question now that Trump's people are asking, and I think they're completely right, is the Democrats have instituted a system of mail-in balloting, which we know is very corrupt. And yet, how can we trust the Postal Service, the union, which has endorsed one party over the other? That's an incredible conflict of interest. So think about it. We have massive universal or almost universal mail-in balloting. We know that's a key way how the Democrats plan to cheat. And the Postal Service, the union that runs the Postal Service, is openly backing the Democrats and Kamala Harris. So how can we expect the election to be fair? Am I wrong, Deb?
You're completely right, Jeff. And I don't expect it to be fair. I expect this, well, they're already cheating with the, with the lawfare and all that. And this is a plan from way back. They had these plans in place back when Trump declared that he was going to run the second time. It's ridiculous. And I'm glad you had Jay Valentine on the other day, but I just hope Trump is aware, that organization's aware of all the possible inroads that they've made into the campaigns, putting the moles in and all this. I just pray that it has a great outcome in November.
Well, look, there's more good news. The two co-campaign managers that I personally blame for why Trump is underperforming, Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles. Now, I'm hearing conflicting reports. Some are saying that Trump's going to fire them. Others say he's going to demote them. I don't care. Fire. I prefer fire, to be honest, get rid of them, but I don't care. Demote them, fire them, but that he's going to marginalize them. Good. Excellent. Good. And let's bring in people who understand the real threat posed by voter fraud, because they didn't. And now Trump is now really, his eyes have been opened. I sent a lot of stuff to his people, and there's some very powerful people now who understand exactly how the Dems are trying to steal the election. And Deb, this is what I want to do all the way to November. I want to expose as much fraud as we can find out there. And I don't want people to get discouraged. People say, well, what's the point? They're going to steal it. No. The more we unmask, the more we expose, the harder it makes it for them to steal. And that's why, look, I don't care. By the way, they're not just going to try to do it over phantom ballots and phantom voters. They've got algorithms. They're going to try it many ways, 6 ways to Sunday. We have to catch them again and again and again. We catch, we expose, we report it, and then we stop it. And to me, that's the campaign from now all the way until November. If we do that, we will win. Because believe me, Deb, we now have the majority of the American people. After this endorsement, there's now no doubt. In a free and fair election, in anything close to a free and fair election, Trump wins, and he wins big. Deb, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
I read on X the other day that Cornel West is dropping out and endorsing Trump. He says a brother can't, in good conscience, endorse a pro-war, fake black, code-switching hussy whose ancestors owned slaves. I'm proud to stand with Trump. Have you heard about that?
I have not heard about that. That would be huge if that happened. What I did hear, Bob, is almost as good news as that, which is the Democrats, just to show you again what a bunch of SOBs they are. These same Democrats tried to block Cornel West from getting on the ballot. He's running as an independent third-party candidate. He's pro-Palestinian. I disagree with them completely. But the fact is, he's pro-Palestinian. That's his big issue. He wants to be on the ballot in Michigan, which is his right. Well, as you know, there's a big Muslim American, Arab American population in Michigan, and they are also very pro-Palestinian. They tend to vote Democrat. They're not going to vote Democrat now. They want to vote for Cornel West. This is going to cost the Democrats a lot of votes in Michigan and most likely hand the state over to to Trump. So they're trying to block Cornel West from getting on the ballot. Apparently, Cornel West announced it failed. He will be on the ballot in November. So by being on the ballot in November, take it to the bank, Bob. Cornel West is going to scoop up at least 3-4 percentage points in Michigan, which is going to peel away from Biden, from Harris and Tim Walz. And this is going to hand Michigan on a silver platter to Trump. So the way things stand now, if Cornel West comes out and completely endorses Trump, then Michigan is Trump's. It's game over. Michigan is in his win column. So, because you can't steal that many votes. The only way at this point, this is the problem they now have in Michigan and other states, is they now are registering more voters than actual voters. You're already seeing that in Michigan. So apparently 104% of voters are registered, which is a mathematical impossibility. So it's getting to the point now for the Democrats that there's so much support behind Trump that they're going to have to steal it in such a massive, obvious way that it's going to get exposed and the American people won't buy it. So this tells you everything you need to know. If RFK is backing Trump, if Jill Stein now is going to drop out and back Trump, and if Cornel West either stays on the ballot in Michigan and peels all these votes away from Harris or goes out and backs Trump, what does that tell you about the Democratic Party? There's no way in hell that they can win. And it shows how radical and how extreme and how out of touch they've become. Bob, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. This is RFK Jr. on Fox with Shannon Bream yesterday. Listen now to RFK. He says not only will he be campaigning actively for Trump, but he says, you think I'm the only major, big name former Democrat to come out and endorse Trump? Oh, you have no idea what's coming down the pike. Roll cut 11C, Mike.
Going to be campaigning actively. I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign, and I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump.
Now I'm going to get to this America healthy again because it's a huge aspect of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and this alliance between him and Trump. And by the way, I think he's completely correct. And I'm going to get to that very, very soon. I think it's good for our country. I think it's very good for everyone's health. I think it's extremely good for our children. And this is a dagger aimed at the heart of Big Pharma and big agriculture. Big ag and big pharma. And so Trump is now attacking the system on every front, on every single front. But to me, the big takeaway from this is there's a lot of other prominent. Look, Tulsi Gabbard is another one. You could run down the whole list. Tulsi Gabbard, just 8 years ago, was openly talked about as a potential vice presidential nominee in the Democratic Party. She's now 1,000% on board with Trump. I mean, and these are liberal progressives. RFK's a progressive, a liberal, whatever you want to call him. Elon Musk is a liberal. On many issues, he's a liberal. Tulsi Gabbard is a liberal. So what does that tell you about the Democratic Party? 617-266-6868. Judy on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Judy, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Judy.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to mention that after listening to Jay Valentine the other day, which was terrifying, I am so terrified about how and to what degree and what lengths they will go to steal this election. And I think at this point, Trump cannot, he just cannot risk losing any more votes. And I do think insulting people, he cannot do that any longer. What I think he should do is to really explain what all of these Marxist communist policies will do to America. And, talk about unrealized gains, taxing unrealized gains, increasing the corporate tax to 28%, price controls, it just gives me a break. And he needs to say what these communist policies are, explain them in detail, and the ramifications it's going to have on bringing America to its knees. And I think he needs to say these are communist policies, and Harris will implement these policies, and you should be terrified, quite honestly. And I can't tell you what it meant to hear RFK speak the other day. The gravity, the eloquence, the courage that he had to say many of the same things that Donald Trump said, but he said them in a way that, like Trump says, fake news. And he, on the other hand, looked at the news reporters and said, you have a sacred trust to protect free speech. And it's a different way of approaching things. Hopefully he'll help Trump, whom I adore, but I'm kind of angry at him for alienating so many people because, you can say to someone, look at his policies, except all they can see is this man they can't stand because he speaks so strongly, which he has every right to do. And he does insult people, and he needs to stop that. And I thank you.
Judy, thank you very much for your call. Look, I've said this to the campaign now repeatedly. The insults get you nothing now at this point. They just don't. The country's at stake. In many ways, I think the world is at stake. You want my honest opinion? Like I'm in the confessional? And this is another major reason why RFK Jr. backed Trump. I truly believe we're on the cusp of a potential World War III. Ukraine has now invaded Russia. This was about a week ago. Okay, they've invaded the southern part of Russia. They occupy now chunks of Russian territory to try to deflect pressure from the Eastern Front in Ukraine, which the Ukrainians are losing. So they've now invaded Russia. Just as Russia invaded Ukraine, Ukraine has now invaded Russia. And Putin is now promising the mother of all responses. And I'm going to play RFK Jr. on this issue and so much more next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Yeah, that's the song that they played. That's, what's that called? The Foos? What's that called? The band? The Foo Fighters. Yeah, sorry, the Foo Fighters. Yeah, that's their song, and they're trying to sue Trump for using that song when RFK joined him on the stage in Arizona, but apparently Trump had the copyrights to use that song. So even there, they're losing. I mean, I'm telling you, the libs and the Dems are losing on every front right now. 8:20 on the great actually 8:21 now, on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. Okay, so RFK building, and then he made his official announcement in front of a stunned media establishment and press corps. Some could barely contain their emotions. He now says, I'm not only suspending my campaign, but I'm endorsing President Donald J. Trump. Roll cut 8, Mike.
3 great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children.
Free speech, which the Democrats are dismantling and destroying. the war in Ukraine, which Kamala Harris, that was one of the few specific policies she gave at her nominating speech, that she's going to double, triple down on Biden's policy of endless war against Russia. And the war on children, which I'm going to get to very soon. He means in particular the preservatives, the chemicals, toxins that they put in food that he says is really leading to chronic obesity and is destroying the health of our children. By the way, most of this is banned in Europe. We still allow these preservatives and toxins to be put into our food supply. They do not allow it in most of the world. And that's because of big pharma and big agriculture, big ag as it's known. But I'll get to that soon. Listen now to Trump on Ukraine, because he says this is the key issue, along with free speech and the war on children, the very real possibility of World War III. And he says, I can't stand Putin. He's a thug. He's a criminal. He's a dictator. I don't like him. I disagree with him. But the fact of the matter is, we have been encircling Russia through NATO for years. We have been poking the Russian bear for years. We have been meddling in their internal affairs and their near abroad for years. And now we have a 2-year war, nearly 1 million dead. You've got eastern Ukraine devastated, destroyed, shattered. You have a generation of Ukrainian youth gone. Now Ukraine has invaded Russian territory itself, and we are on the verge of World War III. And yet our insane warmongering elites don't seem to care. Trump is the only peace candidate. If you're anti-war, you must vote for Trump. Roll cut 10, Mike.
President Trump says that he will reopen negotiations with President Putin and end the war overnight as soon as he becomes president. This alone would justify my support for his campaign. Last summer, it looked like no candidate was willing to negotiate a quick end to the Ukraine war, to tackle chronic disease epidemic, to protect free speech, our constitutional freedoms, to clean corporate influence out of our government, or to defy the neocons and their agenda of endless military adventurism. But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration. I'm speaking, of course, of Donald Trump.
Look, I've said this before again and again and again. Leave aside the border. Leave aside inflation. Leave aside the economy. Leave aside crime. Leave aside the Constitution. Leave aside freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Let all of that, I could go on and on. Let it all go. We're gonna have a nuclear war if this thing continues between Russia and Ukraine. It's inevitable. They just invaded Kursk, a key southern region of Russia. Ukraine's military, this was about a week ago, launched an all-out offensive. They have now gobbled up chunks of Russian territory. The Russians are now launching a massive counteroffensive in Russia. Putin is now calling up all of his military reserves. And the Russian media is now saying this is a direct attack by Ukraine, America, and NATO on Russian soil. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying, have you all gone mad? Russia is a major nuclear power. We are on the brink of nuclear war. Stop the madness. 8:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just super quick, because I want to go to the phone lines to put an exclamation point. What brought Robert F. Kennedy Jr. together with Donald Trump? And to be honest, this to me is the bipartisan pro-America coalition that I have been calling for now for I don't know how many years. And what is very heartening, yes, I think it's going to give Trump a huge boost in the polls. I think it's going to give him a decisive advantage now in the battleground states. I think there's no question. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be a tremendous asset to Trump, not just as they campaign together. Look what they're planning to do together in the White House. Trump is going to set up a presidential commission, and he's going to put RFK on it to finally investigate the assassinations of John F. Kennedy Jr., of RFK Jr.'s dad, and of his own assassination attempt. And RFK Jr. has said it. By the way, the entire Kennedy clan has said that they are convinced the CIA was behind the assassination of JFK and of RFK, but especially of JFK. And the deep state, the CIA, has been withholding thousands of key classified documents now for decades for no good reason. Well, we know why. Because it covers up their complicity. And that's why now they don't want it to come out. RFK Jr. is now going to be heading that commission. The deep state is going to get exposed. And we're going to start to see just how deep the tentacles of the deep state are and how long this has been going on in our own country. This is all now going to come out. So this is why this alliance with RFK is huge. When I say it's a nuclear bomb, I'm telling you, it's a political nuclear bomb. Because you can say whatever you want about RFK Jr. He wants to know who killed his father. He wants to know who killed his uncle. And Trump is saying to him, you're an honest man, and I know you're going to find out who was behind that assassination attempt on me. So I'll tell you what. You hate the deep state. I hate the deep state. You want to expose the deep state? I want to expose the deep state. So let's do something that's never been done before. Let's rip the lid off. Lift the lid completely off. Let's get to the bottom, finally, of who murdered John F. Kennedy Jr. and who murdered your father, Robert F. Kennedy. And the CIA is petrified. The deep state now, they're like chickens without a head. But there's more. There's more. Because RFK Jr. is an avowed opponent of the military-industrial complex, which has gotten us into war after war after war. And listen now to RFK Jr. saying, yes, I'm with Trump on free speech. It's the essence of America. We must now save it and restore it. Yes, I want healthy children. We've got to stop this war on our children and this chronic obesity and just the food, the bad food that we're now allowing our children to eat that is banned in Japan, that is banned in Asia, that is banned in Europe, that's banned almost all over the world. Someone's got to stand up to these lobbyists like big agriculture and big pharma and big tech and big business that are driving our country into the ground. But this war in Ukraine, this war could end the world as we know it. It could lead to World War III. These are reckless neoconservative warmongers who are beholden to the military-industrial complex and to the corrupt oligarchs in Ukraine that own Biden and his administration lock, stock, and barrel. Listen now to Robert F. Kennedy. This was him. This is RFK Jr. at the rally in Arizona. And I'm telling you, he was given a hero's welcome. The crowd kept chanting, USA, USA, USA. And listen now to RFK saying the grip of the neocons, of the neoconservatives, of the warmongers must come to an end. Roll cut 12C, Mike.
He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy.
Yes. Yes, baby.
He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States.
Yes.
And the safest, the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country?
Yes. You had me at hello. You had me at hello. Finally, yes. Instead of $200 billion being thrown down a rat hole in Ukraine, stolen by Zelensky, stolen by his cronies. By the way, 10% for the big guy. And Biden and Hunter Biden and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and Pelosi. By the way, Jean-François, John Kerry. Okay, John F. Kerry as well. Kerry as well has been taking a cut, and his family. Everybody's getting their kickbacks on that $200 billion. The corruption stinks to high heaven. Imagine what we could have done with $200 billion in this country. How many manufacturing jobs, our industrial base, poverty, homelessness, taking care of our veterans, building that border wall. I could go on. You want airports? Best airports in the world, highways, bridges, roads. $200 billion could have rebuilt our country and the entire middle class, for God's sake. In other words, don't put Ukraine first, or to be more accurate, because the Ukrainians don't get much of this money. Don't put the globalists and the corrupt politicians first. Put America first. This is a pro-patriotism agenda. And this is now a pro-patriotism movement of both Democrats, Republicans, and independents. My friends, I'm telling you, no force on earth now can stop us. 617-266-6868. They have to steal it in November. They have to steal it in November. And this is an absolute beauty from Eric on Messenger. Listen to what he says. Jeff, after RFK's endorsement and support for Trump, it is crystal clear. This election is a vote for America or communism. Trump is now the party of unity. Bingo. Betty in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Betty, and welcome.
Jeff, how's it going?
Great. How are you, Betty?
Good. All I can say is happy birthday, America. Wow. Bobby Kennedy, bald and a backbone. I mean, this is the most hope and joy I've felt in a long time, I'll tell you. And, you know, it's not easy going against your family, especially the Kennedy family. You know, I was never political, but I always thought, if these so-called seasoned politicians, you know, do they even have kids or grandkids? Like, if they would just stand up and do the things that they agree on and then just, you know, agree to disagree, we'd be so much better off. I mean, just to stand together on that and, you know, leave the rest. I mean, I have so much respect for Kennedy. And as Trump always says, you know you're doing the right thing when everyone and their mother, and especially your family and the party you're for or against you, you're doing the right thing. So keep going. This is a beautiful thing. Oh, my gosh, there is a God, Jeff. And it's so nice to see these people coming together. It's like, yeah, A to the men.
Betty, Trump's support now, if you look at the polls, is bigger now than it was in 2016. It's bigger now than in 2020. There's no question now. He's polling better now than he has in the last two elections. Look, The only thing we have to guard against is the steal. And this thing may be over on September 10th when Trump, I believe, will crush her in debate. When he takes on Comrade Kamala and just annihilates her, I think this thing could be over in 2 weeks. So I don't want to get overconfident. I don't want to get cocky. But at this point, my advice to everybody is keep an eye on the fraud. That's the only way now they can stop us. Betty, thank you so much for that call. I know Mark in Medford, you've been hanging on. Mark, I'm going to come to you, I promise. All of your calls next. 850 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. You know, I'd be on hold for you to your next show tomorrow because I love you, my friend, in a non-physical way.
Mark, but buddy, what do you make of this huge endorsement by Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
Oh, Jeff, I think it's a beautiful thing, but just let me start off by saying this. Remember, 4 years ago, Joey said, we have the most extensive, the most inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Now, with that being said, the Harris campaign, if that's what you want to call it, they believe in their own warped, woke, small mind that they don't need to run on a platform of policies, actually stand for anything, or as I learned last night, even have a debate. I'm assuming that I think Kamala she backed out of the debate from what I heard. They believe as long as they're running against the evil orange man, they're going to win. And of course, with the Democratic cheating machine behind them. But you know what, Jeff? Not this friggin' time. No effing way.
I'm just curious, Mark. The Kennedy endorsement for you. What is the biggest takeaway you get from it? What is the one thing you go, Jeff, this is now what has put Trump on a different level, say, compared to 2020 or 2016?
I think actually just having a real Democrat, not a phony Democrat. Yes, I know he's a progressive liberal, but he stands what's right for America. What's going against Trump now is everything that is wrong for America. Just think about it, Jeff. If Trump and his campaign was doing what the Harris campaign and the Biden campaign did, they would be on the Republicans like flies on dog poop. And you know that.
Oh, you're dead on. Mark, you're absolutely dead on. And look, I love the way you phrased it. You know, RFK Jr. is a real Democrat. A principled, liberal, progressive Democrat, but he wants what's best for our country. And that's why they can ally and unify together on the big issues. And I agree with you, Mark. I think it's electrifying. And thank you very much for that call, Mark. And I just want to play a few cuts. This is Trump introducing RFK Jr. at the rally in Arizona. So earlier on Friday, Kennedy, RFK Jr., Bobby, gave his speech at a press conference, saying, "Look, this is why I'm quitting or suspending the campaign, and this is why I'm endorsing Trump." He then showed up later as the special guest of Trump, and man, oh man, did the crowd go crazy. MAGA welcomed him, embraced him with open arms. Roll cut 14A, Mike.
I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
The crowd went nuts, absolutely nuts, because they can sense, especially in Arizona, it's a key battleground state. Kennedy was polling 3, 4, 5%. So most of those votes are going to go to Trump now. And the people of Arizona are like, no, I think we just took Arizona. And it's similar for Georgia, for Pennsylvania, for Michigan, for Wisconsin. They can sense now this is an historic turning point in the 2024 campaign. Let me just play one more and go back to the phone lines. Listen now. So Kennedy's now introduced, and watch the crowd. Just listen to the crowd. Roll cut 14B, Mike. 14B, Mike.
Man, whoa. And he deserves it. He deserves it.
I mean, as Mike was telling me in my ear, I don't know if you watch wrestling or not, but the World Wrestling Entertainment or whatever it is, WWE. He goes, Jeff, it was like a prominent, popular wrestler introduced at WWE or, mixed martial arts, MMA, like a big fight. And the fighter comes out into the ring and the crowd just starts going nuts. They loved him. I mean, they absolutely loved him, and I don't blame them. And just, again, it was even the speech. I thought his press conference was incredible. But even the speech, he just laid it out again and again and again. And he said, why am I here with Trump? Why have I suspended my campaign? Why am I endorsing and I'm going to campaign with Trump and for Trump? Roll cut 13, Mike.
And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys? They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism.
Oh, he's dead on. He's dead on. I'm telling you, I couldn't have said it better myself. So, free speech, end the war in Ukraine, take care of our children, stand up to the deep state, secure our border. Look, here, this is RFK Jr. on Fox. And Shannon Bream is stunned. Shannon Bream is like, because, look, Fox is the establishment neoconservative rhinos. Okay, that's the Brett Bears, that's the Karl Roves. These have been the war hawks, the warmongers. So this is they're very pro-Ukraine war. And so now they're looking at these two anti-war candidates come together. And they're like, OMG, we're in trouble. The establishment is in trouble. And so and she's like, why? Why would you support Trump? You're a Democrat. You're a liberal. Your father was a Democrat icon. How could you do this? And listen now to RFK. Roll cut 11, Mike.
It became clear to me that I did not have a path to victory. 16 months of censorship, of not being able to get on any network really except for Fox. And I had, in fact, when Ross Perot ran, in the 10 months that he ran, he had 34 appearances on the networks. I had 2 appearances in 16 months. So I was blocked out from the networks. I was blocked out from the debate. I had no path to victory. President Trump had been reaching out to me, and I talked to him a few hours after the assassination attempt, and we had a long conversation by phone. I then had 2 extensive meetings, and there were issues, the broad issues that were most important to me, the ones that brought me into the campaign, which was ending the Ukraine war, ending the censorship, and protecting children's health.
There you go, man. That's all you need. No, we disagree on other issues. That's okay. We can settle that after Harris and Biden and the Democrats are defeated. Once this criminal cabal, communism, is finally brought down and crushed, then we can settle our differences. And I just want to make one final point and then go right back to the phone lines. This is reminding me very much of what happened in Central Eastern Europe under the Iron Curtain. Because I remember in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and we'd have people over to our house and you know, they were all anti-communists, but I'm telling you, all they agreed on was what they opposed. So you literally had, you know, anti-communists who were allying, say, with, I don't know, Serbian monarchists. Like, who the hell wants a monarchy, right? It doesn't matter. They're opposed to communism. They're an ally. Bring them on board. You had Reaganite conservatives who made alliances with social democrats. You know, they left what Sweden had and the Scandinavian model. It doesn't matter. We'll fight it out later in free and fair elections. We're against communism. We're allies. Let's keep going. So this is what I'm starting to see happening now. It's, you know, it's independents, it's Republicans, it's MAGA, it's progressives, it's disaffected liberals, it's disillusioned Democrats, it's anti-war people. It doesn't matter. It's pro-civil liberties people. Maybe we disagree on many other issues, but on the importance of freedom of expression and freedom of speech and an end to censorship, we agree. In other words, we need to save our country. We need to save our freedoms. We need to save our Constitution. Everything else, we can debate and disagree later. And listen now to Kennedy. Last cut. Food and Drug Administration, he may get a key role. He wants to see the unhealthy preservatives and toxins that they're putting into the food supply, especially when it comes to our kids and how it's leading to chronic disease and chronic obesity. Stuff that has been banned in Europe and around the world. HHS, go after Fauci. Go after Fauci and expose what they did to us during that criminal COVID lockdown and how they are responsible for millions and millions of people dead around the world. And put them on that presidential commission to investigate the CIA's role in the assassination. Release all the documents so we know who killed Kennedy, JFK, Kennedy's father, and who was behind the Trump assassination attempt once and for all. Expose and clean out the deep state. I don't care what role he has. For Kennedy, that's an incredible role. It's good for Trump. It'll be good for his administration. It'll be great for our country. So listen now to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is his term, not mine. It's time for a unity coalition. It's time for a national unity government. Roll cut 11A. Mike.
He invited me to form a unity government. We agreed that we'd be able to continue to criticize each other on issues on which we don't agree. But these issues are so important in their way of unifying our country. We need in this country to reach a point where we love our children more than we hate each other.
That's a beautiful phrase. Honestly, I would pick it up as a theme, a major theme of the entire Trump campaign all the way now till November. That completely destroys their pathetic, vacuous, empty hope and joy. Hope and joy. We need to love our children more than we hate each other. This is about our children. This is about our grandchildren. This is about our country. And so I want you to know, I welcome Kennedy. I welcome all Kennedy Democrats, all Kennedy supporters with open arms. From now until November 5th, we are brothers and sisters in a common struggle, in a common fight. And by the way, to Jill Stein and the Green Party, if you're willing to suspend your campaign and endorse Trump, I kiss you on both cheeks and I welcome you as well. We will welcome anybody to bring this corrupt, evil, tyrannical cabal down. Enough is enough. Our very country is at stake. Kennedy, speaking of Kennedy, great name, my friend, in Hawaii. Aloha, Kennedy. How are you?
I'm great. Aloha.
Kennedy, what do you make of Kennedy endorsing Donald J. Trump?
I've never been so proud of having the last name Kennedy.
So I take it you're a big fan.
Yes, now I am. Beforehand, I was always calling in as Bill in Hawaii. But now it looks like I'm going to be calling in as Kennedy now.
Kennedy, I'm just curious, did it surprise you that he endorsed Trump? And what do you think is the biggest advantage that he gives to Trump now going forward? What do you like most about his endorsement?
Well, beforehand, all I get from the news now is because I went blind some months ago. But the only kind of news I get is from AP News off of my phone. And they were going on and on about how Kennedy is begging to join the Harris team. So to hear this news, I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I think this is going to be a big plus for Trump.
Oh, I agree. Kennedy, I completely agree. And I think the way he's phrased it, what their alliance is based on, it's not just that it's Kennedy, his name, and his supporters. It's the entire anti-war movement, which is very big on the left. I know it's getting bigger and bigger on the right. Don't get me wrong. Because I consider myself, along with Tucker Carlson, one of the leaders of the anti-war conservatives movement in the United States. I am an anti-war conservative, as is Tucker Carlson, as are others. But on the left, it's been very prominent for many decades. He's going to really reach out to people on the left who are petrified that these idiots in Washington are going to lead us into World War III with Russia, especially in the wake of this invasion by Ukraine right into Russian territory. So I think he's going to get the anti-war people to come on our side, the pro-civil liberties left to come on our side. I think there are a lot of liberals who are very concerned about big agriculture, big pharma, what they're putting into our food supply, and of course what's happening to our children. I think he's going to bring them on board as well. And from this point forward, think about what this says about Trump. He's willing to bring people not just into his camp, not just into his campaign, not just into his movement, but literally into his very administration, who disagree with him on so many issues. And he's the dictator? This is supposed to be Adolf Hitler? This is supposed to be the second coming of Hitler and of Putin? It destroys the entire lie that the liberals have built up about Trump for years. Am I wrong, Kennedy?
No, you're not wrong. I'm just like to include one last thing here before I go, that when I moved into this community here, I'm kind of like restricted, but they were all Biden. And they had pictures of Biden around, and they were like, oh, yeah, Biden's great. Now that with my influence, they've thrown away the Biden pictures. And they just voted in for Trump. And I think that's all my influence.
Kennedy, good for you. Kennedy, God bless you. Kennedy, I'm very sorry to hear about your eyes. Please stay strong, stay hopeful, and together we're all going to win on November 5th. We're going to take our country back, Kennedy. And thanks for everything that you're doing and continue to do. Kennedy, God bless you, and don't be a stranger. Call again, okay? And please, no longer call in as Bill. call in under your last name. Because now you should be very proud of your last name. I mean, you should always be proud of your last name, but especially now. Barbara in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Barbara.
I'm ecstatic. I am ecstatic about what this past weekend. I could not believe it, and I met with some Democrats this past weekend, Saturday, and they can't just accept the fact that Robert Kennedy's done this, and that they're calling him, oh, well, he's crazy anyway. Not at all. And this is going to be the minority of Democrats who feel this way. I think that there's so many people who have been waiting for somebody in the Democrat Party to make sense, to start acting like they love this country. We are so sick of seeing them with flag burning. They're waving Hamas flags and anti-Semitism, anti-Americanism, death to America coming from Americans in these demonstrations. And people are sick of it. And what Robert Kennedy has done, I think, has given some hope to a lot of Democrats who really, I think a lot of them felt disenfranchised by what was happening, what is happening in the Democrat Party. I don't think a lot of them like it, especially the elderly people, seniors, people who really, everybody who has any sense, unless you're on the dole, if you're on welfare or, and the government's taking care of you with food stamps and home assistance and electrical assistance and all of that. Those are the people who give Democrats, the Kamala Harris and Biden Democrats, that.
Oh, you're completely right. No, Barbara, you're absolutely right. He's now opened the door for millions and millions of disillusioned, disaffected Democrats to vote for Trump. My friends, we're going to win. 919 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quickly. We don't normally do this, but I'm gonna give out the poll question one more time. Why? Because so far it is 67% yes, 33% no. It literally 2/3 to 1/3. So Kuhner Country, I mean, there's a majority. I guess you can call it a super majority, but Kuhner Country is divided. So let me give out the poll question again. I'm just curious to get everybody's take. I'd like for as many of you to vote as possible, por favor. As always, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows, and we thank them for their sponsorship. Now that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has teamed up with Donald Trump, he's not just endorsing him, he's going to campaign with and for him, especially in the key battleground states. Are they unbeatable? Is Trump unbeatable versus Harris now in November? Is this the unbeatable combination or team that will put Trump over the top on November 5th? A, yes. B, no. So far, it is 67% yes, they are unbeatable. 33% no. And most of you still are convinced that the Democrats are going to swamp the polls with fake ballots. We may swamp them with real actual voters, but many of you believe it's going to be fraud, Jeff. They're going to find a way to steal it. So anyway, I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHNER. You can always vote via X. I'm very active. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is in national ER. Okay, a major reason, and this is historic as well. It's historic on so many levels. One of the key reasons why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has decided not just to endorse, but to really go all out and campaign and support Trump, especially in all the key swing states, relentlessly from now until November, is because Trump has done something that no other major candidate has ever done. He is willing now to not just take on the deep state, to not just take on the corrupt ruling class and the swamp, but he's now going to take on big agriculture. Big pharma and big agriculture. And this is the real dynamic duo between Trump and RFK Jr. RFK, yes, he led the fight on COVID, the vaccine, the jab, the lockdowns, the mask mandates, Fauci. He was brilliant and very courageous and was repeatedly censored, suppressed, and defamed. But he's also been a leader on what they're putting in our food supply, and in particular, food aimed at children. Cereals, snack bars, all sorts of stuff that is banned in Europe, banned in Latin America, banned, I'm talking in Japan, in South Korea, in Australia, in New Zealand. In most of the world, they banned, pardon my French, they banned this crap. Not here. It's big money, but it's leading to a chronic obesity problem among our children, which leads to diabetes. And he says it's also having other effects. For example, Sandy and I were just talking about this off air literally a couple minutes ago. All this fluoride they keep pumping into the drinking water, the tap water. Kennedy kept saying, look, there's study after study after study. It does have an impact on children and especially their IQ levels. And he was derided, mocked as a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, a kook. Guess what? It turned out RFK Jr. was right. According to a government study, RFK Jr. was right. Fluoride in the water is not good for you, especially for kids. It has very bad side effects, including your mental IQ development. Now, listen to RFK, because he says they have a pact. Trump is saying, I want to take on big agriculture, big ag. I want to take on big pharma. And you know what? We're going to start banning some of these poisons and toxins in our food supply and in what they're selling our children. Listen now to RFK. This was him at the rally in Arizona. Roll cut 12A, Mike.
And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president, and we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day, and I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida, and we talked about, not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic.
Amen. Amen. And by the way, this just broke. Walmart now has had to recall apple juice in over 25 states. Why? Arsenic. Arsenic in the apple juice. Arsenic. And this is another thing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been going on about. He goes, look at what they're putting in our food. How can they, they're slowly poisoning our population. And everybody said, oh, he's crazy. He's crazy. No, he's right. And Trump is willing to do what no other politician has. Stand up to big business, stand up to big agriculture, stand up for us, the people and the consumers. 9:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me just throw this log on the fire. I don't think the Democrats and the media saw this punch coming, this political punch that both Trump and RFK Jr. have now thrown at him. From my understanding, and from people I've spoken to over many, many years, there are a lot of Americans, more women than men, Okay, it's both. It's both men and women, no question. But more female than male that are very concerned about our food supply, about pesticides, about chemicals, about all these toxins and preservatives that they put in food, especially processed food, and that this is making us chronically obese and chronically unhealthy. And these wonderful people have been ignored and neglected. In fact, they've been mocked and ridiculed. But their argument is, well, look at Europe. All this stuff, this garbage, this junk is banned. They eat organically, or as organically as possible, because it's healthier, much healthier. That's why they're thinner. That's why they don't have chronic disease. That's why their children don't end up having diabetes and all kinds of other health issues. And it's not just Germany and France and Italy and Britain and Poland and Belgium and the Netherlands and the Scandinavian countries. It's Japan, it's South Korea, it's Australia, it's New Zealand. In other words, it's happening all over the world. Only, it's not just America, it's Canada and North America. Only in North America do we allow this garbage to be put into our food. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been on this issue courageously on the front line for decades. And he says this is because of corporate corruption, big agriculture, and people are like Montesano and others, and that they buy off politicians, and they have perverted and bought off the FDA. And they did it for the vaccine. They've done it for medications, for prescriptions. They've also now done it when it comes to food. Both big ag, big agriculture, and big pharma now must be exposed and held accountable. Listen now to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He said, I couldn't believe it. I sat down with Trump and he said, we can do business. I hear you. I think you're right. And I think we should make this a national major issue. It's about the health of our people and the health in particular of our children. And it's an issue the media won't touch because they're owned by the very same corporations that are poisoning our kids with this garbage. But Trump is not afraid to stand up to the establishment. Listen now to RFK Jr. This is him in Arizona at the rally. Roll cut 12B, Mike.
Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children?
Yes. Yes.
And don't you want the chemicals out of our food?
Yes.
And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption?
Yes.
And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted.
We'll make you the head of the FDA, buddy. No problemo. You want to be, we're going to put you on the Presidential Commission to investigate the CIA's role in the assassination of JFK, your dad, Robert F. Kennedy, and of course the assassination attempt on Trump. But we'll also make you the commissioner, the head of the FDA. He'd be perfect for it. Perfect. Now you know why the ruling class, their heads are exploding right now. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quickly, and I think this sums it up beautifully. This is from Joe on Messenger. Just very simply. Jeff, MAGA treated RFK Jr. better than his own party. And in fact, if you look at the reception that he gets, look at his press conference is the one I really want you to watch. Okay, if you're going to watch it, the rally is incredible. It's electric, high energy. I mean, it sends tingles up your spine. It really does. But in terms of a master class, a master speech, where it's truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb, speaking truth to power, you got to see the press conference on Friday. when he makes his announcement, I'm suspending my campaign and I'm now endorsing Trump. You can even sense you can sense we're at a crossroads and that this is a fundamental turning point in the election. But if you look at the rally, the warmth, the electricity, the passion, the energy, the love in the room for him. At one point, RFK actually says out loud, like, wow. Like, wow. I mean, my God, the love in the room for me. I've been vilified, demonized, slandered, attacked, sued, censored. I mean, they've attack piece after attack piece by the Democrats, by the media. And here, this is supposed to be the right. This is supposed to be MAGA, the terrorists, insurrectionists, KKK. Wonderful, ordinary, salt-of-the-earth people who just love their country. And even though we disagree on so many issues, look how tolerant they are. Look how accepting they are. Look how loving they are. You can tell the enthusiasm, the real joy of the crowd, not this phony fake joy, this manufactured joy. The real joy and hope of the crowd, the love of the crowd, it won Kennedy over. You can just see it. It's like, these are good, decent people. I'm telling you, when we've held Kuhner country rallies, and I've had people speak who don't agree with us on many issues, but on certain issues they do, and the incredible reception that Kuhner country always gives them, they always come back and say, wow, you guys are not what I've been reading about. I know. It's a pack of lies. Stop reading the media. They're a bunch of liars and propagandists. But my point is, Kennedy has now become one of us. Agree, disagree, and let me ask all of you, is Kennedy right? Are you worried about the chemicals in our food? Are you worried that our food, our regulatory agencies have been corrupted by big money and big pharma and big agriculture? And is this an incredible slogan? We should love our children more than we hate each other. I think it's the slogan that's going to win him the election. But that's me. What say you? Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Hi.
A great and beautiful morning. Thank you very much. I have a few things to say. I'll make it quick.
Yes.
First of all, I'll tell you, I was excited to hear Bill Kennedy from Hawaii. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to note, I've got several things. Again, I'll keep it brief. As I watched the DNC and I've interacted with some relatives, I'm one of those people that has the relatives on the other side, too, that are very, difficult people. My first cousin in Detroit. It's very interesting. What I've observed is what the Democratic Party, the Democrat liberals are doing. What I've seen is that they instill with their words and their actions fear and anger in people, and that's what gets all these people really riled up. That's one thing I wanted to note. Regarding his vice president pick for RFK Jr., I was wondering if you, at some point, will go over. Apparently, she gave a speech. She's a very liberal Democrat as well, the child of an immigrant Chinese, American immigrant Chinese father, Irish, German background.
Yeah, Nicole Shanahan. I mean,
if you could, yeah.
Is the father Irish? Shanahan. Verna, I think so. But yeah, no, please keep going.
She really condemned the Democratic Party for what they've done. I wanted to mention, too, when I watch the DNC and I watch all these speeches, and last Friday, the press conference and everything with Trump and RFK, it's very interesting what the cable stations do, what they show and they don't show. MSNBC doesn't show anything. CNN cut it off very quickly because I switched back and forth. Fox and Newsmax showed most of it, but cut it off at the end before it ended. C-SPAN is the one thing that I can rely on that shows everything in detail without interruptions. Very interesting. And I was wondering if you could comment also on RFK Jr.'s wife and children. I haven't heard anything about that specifically. And I wanted to just raise up one thing. Having lived in the USSR as a young adult, and you, with your background, we can smell and feel fake news coming. In this country, they don't.
No, they don't. Most don't. And the reason why is, and God bless them, is because they've been born and raised, in the greatest country in the world. So communism is foreign to the American people, but they can smell it now. It's coming, and we're going to stop it, God willing. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Donald Trump has now done the impossible. A Kennedy is going to vote for a Republican. Hell has just frozen over. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, very, very quickly on Messenger. This is David, and this is the message he sent me just a couple minutes ago. Jeff, I just want to confirm everything you've been saying. My wife and I spent 2 weeks in Europe. The food was fantastic. Our minor wrist arthritis pain was gone. It returned a week later after being home. RFK Jr. is 1,000% correct. No, there's no question. Look, I've been to Europe many times with my wife. Parts of Europe. I've been to Vienna. I've been to France and England and Austria. And Central Europe, obviously in the Czech Republic and Slovakia, Croatia, where my parents are from. The food tastes better. It's much healthier. It's much more organic. You feel better. The moment you come back, you can feel the chemicals and the preservatives. Not in everything, but in so much of what we eat. He's completely correct. There's no question. There's no question. Okay, one more. This is from Caitlin. Jeff, RFK Jr. choked up the entire speech. He was so emotional, he almost cried the whole time. No, I noticed that. You're talking about the rally in Arizona. You could tell it was a very emotional moment for RFK. And Caitlin continues, and his family renouncing his decision as a betrayal to protect their precious image of a Kennedy, that he has disgraced the name Kennedy and the Kennedy name. Jeff, I bet you they're all voting for Trump in secret, and dear old Bobby's blowing up their spot. I'm going to make a prediction, because I think Caitlin is onto something. There are a lot more Democrats who maybe will tell a pollster that they're going to vote for Harris that are secretly going to pull the lever for Trump. Mark my words. There are millions of sleeper Democrat voters out there. We'll find out on election night. But I know, because I talked to some of them message me, they're closet Trump supporters. And Bobby Kennedy now has given them the green light. Wink, wink. It's okay to vote for Trump because it's for the best interests of our country. Agree, disagree. Deborah in Boston. Thanks for holding, Deborah, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. You know who this is, right?
Deborah, how are you? Yes, of course.
Your favorite hippy-dippy health nut right-wing extremist.
Yes.
Jeff, it sounds like you've been Kennedy pilled. I'm so excited.
So you're Deborah, you're happy about this, right?
This has been so emotional. And, just a few minutes ago when you were talking about being mocked, that's been me for like 25 years. I was like a very unusual young female. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh when I was like 20. And, yes, amen to everything he said. And then he would start making fun of environmentalist wackos. And it's like, we are part of the environment. We eat the food that grows out of the soil that is the environment. And this is why we're all so sick and fat. And there's been so many people that haven't made the connection. And, I'm feeling optimistic.
Deborah, this is your moment, because I think a lot of people are coming around to your point of view. By the way, myself included. I mean, the environment has become such a loaded term, but, pro-conservation and clean air, clean water, clean soil, good food, whatever. Just, yes, I was always for that. But you've really opened my eyes, and Robert F. Kennedy has really opened my eyes to just how the chemicals in our food, processed food in particular, how unhealthy it is. And you're completely right. Deborah, I'm telling you, they're not mocking you anymore. And, the key, you kept presenting the facts. You kept showing the evidence. You didn't back down. You always did it with a smile. And here you are, Deborah. We can have a chance now to really change our country for the better. And that means what we eat, what we grow, our food supply, what we buy in the grocery store. We could make our country a much healthier country. And I love RFK's slogan. It's not MAGA, he says, it's MAHA. Make America healthy again. Final word to you, Deborah.
Jeff, I meant to email it to you last week, but RFK mentioned the interview that Tucker did with Callie and Casey Means. And he just fires off all these statistics about, antidepressants and all of the disease. And then I think it was 75% of young people, young men, women, don't qualify for military. Like, this isn't just a matter of looking good in a bikini. Like, we are vulnerable being so fat and sick.
Deborah, drop the mic. Drop the mic, and thank you for that call. Let me squeeze one more in. Skippy in South Boston. Skippy, I hate to do this to you. I've got 1 minute. The floor is yours. Go.
All right, Jeff. I'll start off by saying this. Too bad we didn't know about that apple juice. We could have sent a bunch over to that convention, the Cuckoo Convention. That would have been nice. But also, great thing for Kennedy. You said FDA was all about that. That's an organization with many tentacles that deal with all of our aspects of our lives that need reforming real bad. There's your man. And so in the Department of Education. So you'll deal for kids in their physical health and their mental health. So I think it's a great move, and I think it's the beginning of a third party. If you ask me, it's in the works. People are getting fed up on both sides.
Well, Skippy, look, I think you hit the nail right on the head. We saw with the FDA how corrupt they were and how corrupted they become with the vaccine and the jab and their ties to Fauci. Now we're going to see that this corruption's even deeper than we possibly imagined. And you're right. RFK and Trump are the two people to clean it all up. All right, my friends. I got to go. Bye-bye.